to a new video. So in this video we're going to be taking a look at the upgrade on the fuel system on the S15 and what I've done. What I've got here is the fuel pump. Again, I've got it out and I'm doing mods to it. I've already done mods to it actually. So what I wanted to do was do the whole upgrade, do all the hard work, and then show you guys exactly what I've done. Just save a bunch of time. Gives you insight in maybe your builds and how you want to proceed if you do want to upgrade like I have done. So yeah, let's get to it. Now to look at this setup in detail on the bench here, we start with a Aeroflow 255 pump, and I'm using the smaller pump. I've actually downgraded from a 460 for the in-tank because it's purely just going to be used for a lift pump only. Generally speaking, you want about half the litre per hour flow of the surge tank pump or pumps. I'm running a 525 litre per hour big bad boy pump in the surge, so I actually only need the 255 for the lift pump. That is satisfactory and it will work just fine. So in more detail, we've got the 255 litre per hour pump there. Just runs along. I've wired it up nicely. The big changes here for me is this setup here. So the top hat, which you can do yourself, but you do have to be really careful because there is a little bit of skill that's required to modify the top hat like I have. This is really just to save money. I mean, ideally, if you wanted to, go out and buy like a billet one or something like a radium that's already got all the fittings on it. So yeah, I've modified this for AN6 fittings. They are just AN6 bulkhead fittings. Just trying to get the shots in the light so you guys can see. Then you've got your electrical bulkhead fittings as well for the power and the earth. And I've just previously doubled up on the earth because the wiring was secondhand. Just reused that wiring. I'm only running 5/16 because, or 7.9 mil, because that is just the size on the outlet on the pump. And I actually have the proper filter now. So see how that's on an angle? That's what you want for the saddle type tank that is in the S15, S14. Just gets that fuel at the bottom a little bit more than having a flat. So that'll help out, I believe. And also what I've done is I've actually put the pump like 1 centimeter or 10 mil further down into the tank. I've just positioned it just a little bit further down in the tank, so that'll help as well. Not that it's going to be greatly needed because I've got the surge tank now. Part of the reason I was getting like the fuel surge, I didn't have a venturi connected up on the bottom of the top hat. So I'll show you guys what I've done. It's not a proper jet pump, so to speak, so to call it. But it is, hopefully it will provide some sort of venturi effect, transferring fuel from the passive side of the tank to the active side of the tank. I'll show you guys now what I've just dummied up. On the bottom here, I've just gone ahead and I've got basically a T brass fitting, and that's a 3/8 actually on there. And then I've got a little 5/16, and I've sort of just jammed the hose on. I've zip tied all the connections. It is just the return flow. But the whole idea is that this hose here, this pipe, this connection is actually connected to other parts of the tank. And when you've got fuel returning, basically it creates like, on one side, it creates like a suction. So yeah, it creates like a suction and it draws fuel in from the passive side of the tank. That's part of the reason why I was having fuel surge issues, I believe, because basically mine had nothing connected up. It just had nothing at all. So I strongly recommend running a venturi if you can, especially if you don't have a surge tank. If yours is missing, get one because that will help out greatly, I believe. Moving on, we have the main star of the show really. This is the big surge tank. It's about, I think it's nearly 3 litres, but it is a Raceworks one. And it actually does have capacity for 2 pumps. So later down the track, if I want to upgrade, I can. If, you know, maybe I build a crazy build one day, who knows. All the lines are now mounted. I've cut them to length. I'm using 500 series Aeroflow. This stuff is like just about the best you can get, apart from going braided Teflon. But I've got the push lock fittings. Oh, just a heads up guys, if you are going to use the push lock type fittings, it's definitely worth clamping, putting a clamp on them as well, just as a backup. Rated for 294 PSI. All dependent on how well it's clamped though. Yeah, bulkhead fittings are there, the electrical fittings for the pumps. Pump 1 outlet. This outlet 2 is blanked off, I'm not using it. I've worked really hard to put all this together for you guys so that you can just see basically close to the final result without much stuffing around. I know people lose interest really quickly, so I'd really appreciate if you gave this video a thumbs up and also subscribe if you want to see more. Let's take a look inside, show you the setup. Here we go guys, final install happening real soon. Pretty empty in there. Now to take a closer look, we've got the hanger which suits 2 pumps, which is awesome. It gives you versatility down the track if you so wish and desire, or if your requirements are for 2 pumps. But there you can see I've got the Aeroflow big bad boy 525 litre per hour. This is just about the largest in-tank pump you can get. It does consume and draw a lot of current, so guys, you absolutely have to upgrade your wiring and run relays, which I'll show you guys soon. Got the strainer as well, just a nice flat top. But this setup will do the job really nicely. You guys have no idea how long I've been wanting to just put all this together, but I've saved the last and the best for you guys so that you can get a look in. No need to go out and buy fittings because it actually comes with the terminals, comes with all the nuts, the high quality stainless nuts, spring washers, and even the clamps, and the Teflon joiner hose for the pumps. Also comes with the electrical fittings. Great bit of kit, I think, and the quality is pretty amazing. Alright, so going back in for final install. Line up the holes, and that should be exactly where it needs to go. Next up, final fitment. Alright, all fittings are nice and tight, now it can go for install. All done, nice and tight. And if you don't have the proper spanners, a little tip, just wrap whatever you're using in some electrical tape and that'll help not mark the fittings. So this is how I've actually mounted the surge tank. I've actually used Raceworks. Now I need to warn you guys, extremely warn you guys, that the fuel tank is right below there. Like literally, this Raceworks is literally that much distance until you're actually touching the tank. I actually had to modify it, cut the Raceworks down to size just for that one, just to fit, and I've actually slid a piece, you can't see it, but a piece of MDF about 3mm thick, and I've wedged it in between so that the Raceworks nutset, they call them nutsets, the nutset doesn't touch, and I'm using 2 shorter bolts at the back. Yeah guys, I can't stress how much of an importance it is to make sure you do not drill through your fuel tank when mounting a surge tank on this top part of the S15. So just be careful. I take no responsibility. My channel's just about advice only, but you should also seek professional guidance and get someone professional who knows what they're doing exactly to be able to do the job for you. Have all the lines connected up, surge tanks in, and with the electrical wiring I've just got those nuts on for the positive and negative, just sort of loosely but firmly, just done up finger tight, and I'm going to start it. I've got the battery not connected up, so I'll connect that. Always super careful when connecting up the battery, obviously with fuel. That's good enough. So I've taken fuse out for the extra circuit that I've put in for the surge tank, and now I'm going to prime it. Alright, let's see what happens. Literally, I'm just going to do this a series of times, so it basically fills the surge tank up. Good sign though, you can hear that 255 pump in the tank working. Decided just to cut to the chase, guys. Get out the power probe. Again, be super careful when using electrics around fuel, when you've just worked on a fuel system or working on a fuel system. Just connected it up to the battery. And we can just manually activate the pump with the power probe, and we'll just keep going until that fills up. You can actually hear the fuel returning from the surge tank, so that's really good. Really good to hear that. So now we have the main pump on the surge connector. We'll connect that up, connect that bad boy up, put the fuse back in the circuit, and we can test it for once and for all, and we can start it up after all this hard work. I've now got the electrical connections connected up, the positive and negative, and they're covered and they're safe. Now I'm going to put the fuse, which I've got here, fuse back in, and then give it a go. Connect the battery back up. Alright, let's give it a shot. You hear that? So cycle the fuel pumps a few times. Now it's time for some fuel, guys, so let's get some E85 in. I got 40 litres prepped, ready to go. Went down to the station, petrol station, gas station the other day. So we'll throw 40 litres in and test it out. Okay guys, this is it, moment of truth. Make sure it's not in gear. She's good. Alright, let's go. Give it a crack, hey? Still got a bit of air in the lines. Oh, still need to put the E85 in. How can I forget? Okay, take two. Let's give it another crack, hey? E85. Making sure there's no leaks. Okay guys, in summary, I really hope that you enjoyed the video and you got some valuable info out of it. Next testing will be Matsuri coming up. I'm so excited because the car will finally, shouldn't break up. I'm looking forward to it. Anyway, lastly, I want to leave you guys with some just warnings. Whenever you're working on a fuel system, always remember to disconnect the battery. Be very careful, be mindful of what you're doing, particularly with the fuel tank and how close it is mounted between the rear axles. Literally that fuel tank is right below. So think twice about mounting your surge tank there if you're considering it, and be super extremely careful. Lastly, I wanted to leave with some valuable info on wiring. When wiring fuel pumps, you really want to stick with the same diameter wire that the fuel pump comes with. And you want to check your spec sheet of how much current that fuel pump draws. And quite frankly, your factory wiring probably won't be capable to keep up. So hence why you've actually got to use a 12 volt direct supply from the battery to a relay and use some kind of trigger depending on your ECU. But I just use the fuel pump, basically the switched power from the ECU on the S15, the trigger wire, which you should be able to find in the wiring diagram. From memory, it's the black wire with the yellow stripe, that's the trigger wire. Put that into a relay, so I got a couple of relays here. A good quality relay like this one, it's just the box. It's rated to 40 amps, well and truly capable for that pump, the 525 that we put in. Just want to show you the wiring as well. So this is what came on the 525. The wiring here, this is about 12 gauge wiring. It's about 5 mil. When looking at the Aeroflow spec sheet, it actually said that the pump actually draws up to 15 amps. Anyway, so I went and proceeded, and I thought that 16 gauge wire would be fine, this wire here, so I made a complete setup. Turns out that that was only good for 15 amps, and it draws up to 15 amps. I thought it would be fine. Speaking to a friend, he said, no, you're gonna need more than that. So I went up in size and went to 12 gauge instead. So about 5 mil from memory. 5 mil good heavy duty wire that's not gonna overheat, melt your wires, blow fuses, damage things, and worst case, catch on fire. You do not want that. With the circuit on the 525 pump, I've got a 40 amp relay with a 40 amp fuse and 12 gauge wiring, heavy duty stuff. And I've made sure that I've also put a bit of solder on the actual terminals for the relay so that those terminals aren't the weakest link. They've just got a bit of beef, if you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, that's a wrap up for the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please give this a thumbs up. Let me know what you think down below, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Matsuri coming up, and we'll be testing it out. See you guys, peace out. I also need one last thing. I need to mount this cover to accept the new lines that I've got. I'll have to look at how to seal it properly so I don't get water or moisture through from underneath the vehicle. But that's a job for another day. Probably leave that to closer to Matsuri. A little bit of a push and a squeeze. I know a few more days to go. I think literally it is 5 days to go, but everything's tracking pretty well. I got the main bulk of the work done. That was the fuel system. Got a coil over here on the right hand side that has undone and wound itself down just because it came loose, and it started scrubbing on the tyre itself. So fix those issues and we should be all on for Matsuri. Fingers crossed everything goes well. Looking forward to it, cannot wait.